programa de Djasabra. Aí nós sentar com Tamanna Khemani. Depois, se vou pirata, nós temos uma entrevista via Zoom. Tamanna está na Merka, na New York. Tamanna está na New York. Tamanna nasce e cria na Kòrsou, que é born and raised na Kòrsou. Sim. Ele vai em Merka 10 anos passar, não?
10 anos, já.
10 anos passar. Kaminda después sim. Também depois de seu estudio, ela queda na Merka também e está sendo algo grande mesmo que nós queremos começar a pôr na indústria para ti. Tamanna, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, you're doing something. You know, you don't hear that so much. Such a young girl like you doing there. What first pulled you into the world of startup and early stage investing? But because that's you in.
You know, I think growing up in Curacao, I was exposed to a lot of entrepreneurship, whether it's small businesses or creating new projects. And I think that environment shaped my entire perspective. When I went to UC Berkeley, which is one of the top, it is the #1 public school in the world. I think on that campus, I was really exposed to everything related to entrepreneurship, startups, venture capital, an industry I'd never heard of before. And I think, you know, through taking classes, through those 4 years of my undergraduate degree, I was really able to immerse myself and learn more about the industry. So for context, UC Berkeley is in California, Northern California, very close to San Francisco. San Francisco is the capital of startups and venture capital and entrepreneurship. And so being so close to San Francisco, I spent a lot of time in that city learning a little bit more about, you know, this space and learning more about what encouraged people from all over the world, super talented, to come to San Francisco to start companies. And then 10 years later, fast forward, you see the next Stripe, you see the next Airbnb, you see the next DoorDash, you see the next Gusto. And I would say that one of my mentors is Michael Seibel. He is the founder of the streaming platform called Twitch. So he actually was, you know, working at Y Combinator, which was it still is one of the best accelerators in the world, that basically has about 600 to 700 companies per year that get into their program. So they're sort of like the school for startups. So if you think about, if you want to go to engineering school, you have, you know, the best engineering schools. If you want to be a doctor, you have the best schools for doctors. Y Combinator is like the school for if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to start your own company. And yes. I actually heard Michael speak at a talk at the UC Berkeley campus, and that's where I got inspiration. I kept bothering him until he gave me an opportunity, ended up volunteering, and then ended up being the youngest hire at Y Combinator. I was there for 3 years. I joined in 2020, and I learned a lot, not only because it's an incredible place filled with incredible people, but because it was right before the pandemic. So I learned a lot about how the entire organization transformed and positioned itself to be online, and then came back into in-person in San Francisco when the pandemic ended. And then most recently, I spent some time at General Catalyst. They are a firm with $33 billion of capital, and I've been an early stage investor there, been able to deploy around 11 to 12 million of General Catalyst's money into YC companies. And so it's been a very exciting time. I feel like this career has allowed me to continue being a student, as I'm always in the seat of learning from the best people.
Still.
Yeah, always, because you walk into a room full of entrepreneurs, you know, and I'll give you a real life example. I remember when I went to YC Demo Day, I met someone who was extremely passionate about vegan ice cream. This is when vegan ice cream and veganism wasn't, you know, a trend and wasn't famous. And then in the same area, in the same event, I met someone who was extremely passionate about building supersonic jets. So this goes to
Oh,
say that as an investor, whenever I walk into a room of founders, I automatically put on the hat of learning and being a student, because I go to this person, this founder who's extremely passionate about vegan ice cream, and I learn from them because they're the expert. They spend their entire time, day, breath on working on that. Then I go to meet this next founder who's working on supersonic jets, and their goal is to create flights around the world in under 30 minutes and make them, cheap. And I really love this field because I think innovation is extremely, extremely near and dear to my heart. And so just being able to
I
support
think so.
that as an
Yes,
investor.
I'm sure. You was born and you grew up in a business family.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's why you was shaped up to continue working in the business world. That's
Exactly.
nice. Tamani, how did all these experiences shape your view of what makes a founder truly investable?
Yeah. So I would say there is a bunch of things I've learned, and this would be combining my time at YC as well as my time at GC. And I
Yes.
would say that, there's a checklist I use, a checklist I've made. So when I walk in to meet a founder, I have that mental checklist in my brain. And I think it's different, but there are, I would say, a couple of qualities that are the same that I've seen in the best founders, regardless of whether doing vegan ice cream or supersonic. There's like a specific set that I follow. I think the first one would be, this is not in any order, but I think the more a founder has of these, the higher the chances that they're going to succeed. The one would be storytelling. It's really, really incredible for great founders to be really great storytellers, because that's how they raise money from investors. That's how they convince very talented people to leave their safe 9 to 5 jobs to come work for them for not a lot of money and spend 40, 60, 80 hours working on their startup with them. And that's how they get really good press and media, and that's how they get the trust of their customers. The other thing is really, really being an expert. And this shows up in a lot of different ways, right? So you can be an expert in the field that you are starting your company. You can be an expert with your users because you are your user and you really understand the core pain points and the problems that the customer is facing and what you're solving. And I think being an expert and staying really close to your customers is even more incredibly important than people understand. So I think that would be a very important one. I would say that, it's really important to understand a founder's why. Like, why are you building this? Why are you dedicating the next 20 years of your life and prioritizing this? And I think that there are reasons why founders build, and that why needs to be infinite. That why needs to be something that can motivate them, not today, not tomorrow, not in a few years, in 20 years. Because for a really long time, the journey of a founder is going to be very hard, and it's going to be full of obstacles. And you just have to keep that momentum going. And so I think that's another really, really incredible one. I would also say that, it is helpful to have a good team. And what I mean by that is you need to have someone who's really good at sales and storytelling and marketing and going to market and reaching your customers. But you also need to have someone who maybe is technical and studied computer science and knows how to build the product that the customers want. And I think when it comes to technicality, a lot of us need to look at it as having a good front-end team, having a good back-end team, having good designers. I would say the other thing that combines all of this very nicely is speed. I've seen founders who are, very young and have dropped out of school and have just started their own company, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're very young. I don't know if you'll be able to do it." And 3 years later, they're one of the top companies, for their sector experts. So I think speed is very important. And what that means is you rather invest in a team that is, very talented and moving very quickly, and when their customers give them feedback, they use that feedback and they keep moving and they keep reiterating, versus someone who is extremely talented but is just building the most beautiful product that they think they need, but the customers don't really use it, you know. And I think a good example of this is I've seen founders who build something that doesn't really look good but is very efficient and effective, and the customers love, and their customers are willing to pay money for it, and then they keep iterating, versus founders for a year they're building in something called stealth mode, which is basically they're just going to build and they're not going to launch anything. And if you don't launch anything, you don't get feedback. And if you don't get feedback, you can't make the product better, you know?
Yes.
So those are just some of the things that come top of mind right now.
Okay. Do you get a lot of young people interesting with ideas, with that feeling of business?
Yeah, I think so. So I've seen a lot of young people. And I think at the beginning of my career, I saw when I said young people, I meant people who were graduating from college. But now it's people who are graduating from high school, or people who are like first year of college. And so I think, you know, when I was in college, venture capital was not exciting. It was not the shiny thing. It was not like, oh, I want to get a job in this, because there's no steps to get into this industry. You know, if you want to be a doctor, you do this. If you want to be a vet, you do this. If you want to be a lawyer, you do this. Yes. Venture capital, you can ask anyone in the industry, there's no steps. And so I think that when I started learning about the industry when I was younger, it was, you know, not the sexy thing to do. But now everyone wants to do venture. They want to be an investor, or they want to start their own company. Now it's like, if you're not doing that, what are you doing? So I think the industry has also come a long way.
Yes. And what sector or type of startup are the most excited to invest in right now?
So I would say I've always been a fan. So I'm particularly a early stage investor. And so what that means is I look at companies that have $0 of funding, or are looking for pre-seed to seed funding. And what that means is companies that are raising between 0 to usually under $5 million. Because after that, then it gets very technical, and you know, it's about data and metrics and Excel. But everything before 5 million is about the founders, about the team, the ambition, the story. What are they trying to believe? Because essentially I think about investing as betting on people. You're meeting someone that just has an idea, and you're betting on them, and you're giving them the resources to make it happen and make it a reality. And then, you know, a couple years later, they do it. And so I would say that right now, because AI is taken over the world, and I spent a decade, I spent 10 years in the center of the AI revolution and technology and startups. I was in San Francisco for almost 10 years. I would say that AI startups are something that are very, very hot right now when it comes to investing. I would also say that a lot of the investments usually are on the enterprise side. So like, what can you sell to small businesses, medium-sized businesses, big businesses, whether it's for their employees, whether it's for their business, whether it's for processes. I, in my career specifically, have invested in a lot of AI startups, a lot of enterprise startups. I'm a very big fan of healthcare startups and consumer startups. I would say healthcare and consumer are probably the two industries that are more difficult compared to the other ones. Yeah, I would say the most difficult industry to build in is consumer, because you need to have good distribution, and building distribution is not something that's easy whatsoever. So I think, you know, if you think about Snapchat, if you think about Instagram, if you think about Facebook, those are all consumer companies. So when the founders build right, they hit it big. Like it's like 1 in a billion company. But building in consumer is definitely hard. I would say enterprise, AI, fintech, anything, you know, in like innovation is just general. And then healthcare is also difficult. And I would say healthcare is difficult because you have to navigate the US healthcare system, which is very broken. And so that, you know, that does, and you have to win the hearts and minds and of these people in politics and government. So that is difficult, but it's not impossible. I've seen some founders do it in excellent ways.
Yes. Is there a specific founder or story in a good way that surprised you the most?
Yeah. I can talk about a company I invested in, which is called Fini Health. And so the founder is someone whose parents are immigrants to Canada, and they are based over there. And his mom actually started an autism care clinic when he was younger. And growing up, she didn't speak, proper English, and she had to get a lot of help in setting everything up. And Bucky, who's the founder, helped her. And a lot of his help involved a lot of paperwork, a lot of government filings, a lot of approvals, about a lot of legislations. And, he spent basically kind of his childhood doing that. And seeing that, he realized that, my mom who is this autism care provider, who's providing services to autistic children from our home, is not able to spend all of her time with those kids, helping them, because she has to spend a lot of her time doing all of this paperwork and dealing with people who don't understand the needs and the wants of these children, and just dealing with a lot of extra stuff that she shouldn't have to. So he ended up with his best friend, who also went to my school, UC Berkeley, and UC Berkeley is known to be great for computer science majors. So his best friend is one of the smartest, most talented computer engineers, software engineers. And so together, they're kind of a dream team if you think about it. The reason is, Bucky now is dedicating the next 20 years of his life and focusing on making sure that he can really, really revolutionize this industry that usually is tossed aside. No one cares. It's like, because a lot of these autism care clinics, there are a lot of private equity firms that are handling the process of dealing with them, helping them, and private equity firms don't really care about anything except profits and money. So they don't care about if the providers are doing well, if the children are doing well, they just care about profits. And so Bucky and Yilun ended up creating Fini Health. And now I've met these founders a couple of years back. They're also a YC company, and I funded them through GC. And I met them a couple of years back, and it was, I was just learning about their story. They didn't know I was an investor. I didn't know they were founders. It was just very serendipitous. But once I dug deeper into their story, I realized Bucky will continue making this for his mom. So he could have spent time with his mom, because if, for example, if you think about it, right? If you have 100% of energy and you're spending 50% working with the kids, but then the mom's other 50% of the energy went into the paperwork, if she gets that 50% of energy back, she can spend it with Bucky, she can spend it with the kids, she can spend it with herself. And so that why with him, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The other thing is, he moved very, very quickly. He found the right team. He knew Yilun was talented. And Yilun, if you're a talented software engineer, you can get a great offer at big tech companies and you don't have to worry about anything. But he was able to manage to convince Yilun to leave his very high paying job and come work for him for not a lot of money. And now 3-4 years fast forward, they're doing great. GC actually ended up investing not only in their seed, but their Series A. And Series A is a big round. It's millions of dollars. And they're doing great. They've taken over that industry, and I have very, very high hopes for them.
Perfect. Tamanna, you're from Curacao. You're originally from Curacao. And you're investing globally. How does that global lens affect the way you evaluate founders?
So I think this is actually a superpower of mine, being
I think so.
On the island, we still don't have Uber. We just got Airbnb, which I'm so happy about. I think being from Curacao always
Yes.
reminds me about where I come from and how I grew up and what really matters. And I think I've used that as a superpower, and I am able to connect with founders globally much more easier. Curacao is extremely multicultural. You know, I grew up with everyone from everywhere, with every kind of background you can imagine. And so I think that has translated into a skill. I can meet anyone from any part of the world and instantly connect with them. I think because of the multicultural nature of our island, of, you know, having people from all over the world. I think the other thing is just understanding that Curacao, you know, is on the path to developing and on the path of bringing technology and startups and AI to evolve. I think also helps me keep into perspective and help me realize and understand that people who are often not from the United States have to work 1,000 times harder to not only come to the United States, but stay in the United States and build a company. And so, if anything, I think it's a privilege to work with global founders that are not from the United States. And I wouldn't say I have much more respect for them, but I do have an incredible amount of respect for them because I understand, coming from a small island, how many more obstacles they would have had to cross to just come to the US. Not everyone gets to come to the US. Not everyone gets to work here or build a career or start a company. And, you know, in Curacao, for example, if we have electricity shut down and the Wi-Fi is not good, or if there's a language barrier because people speak Papiamento more than English, you know, I understand those. I think a lot of investors would say those are small things. I think those are the biggest things. And I think those are extremely important to have an understanding of when you meet founders, where are they coming from? What did they have to go through? Like, how much more did they have to fight to get to the same place that a founder from America had to? And I think, for example, right, Bucky, they're from, I know it's Canada, it's close to the US, but it's not the US. And so I like instantly understood how much more effort and motivation and energy and drive that founder had to come here and succeed. And, you know, he's succeeding.
What can you do for yourself?
I think, you know, it depends on the appetite. I actually have met a couple of founders in Curacao who have reached out to me because I work at GC and, you know, we're a global firm. We invest everywhere. And I've actually met them. We haven't invested in anyone yet, but I think I'm just excited to see more people be brave and choose entrepreneurship and create something of their own. I have never been someone who has had like a traditional path, a linear path.
Yes.
A lot of people still don't understand what I do or what industry it is and what.
It sounds so difficult. It sounds so difficult, yes.
Yeah, and even with my parents, I talk to them and I'm like, you know, over the years, I have to like explain what's going on. And, you know, I think growing up, I never fit in anywhere. I wanted to do everything, always. You know, whether it was in school or even in college or after college, one day I wanted to be a doctor, one day I want to be an engineer, one day I want to be a model, one day blah, blah, blah. And so this career really helps me get exposure to everything, meet the experts in the fields of everything. And so I think, you know, I would love to encourage people in Curacao, if they're excited about creating their own companies, small, big, medium, startup level. I think that's the best thing. I think innovation is extremely special and near and dear to my heart. And, you know, I will have my own startup, my own company, my own whatever, even if it's a small business. One day it kind of runs in my bloodline, you know.
Yes. Tamanna, looking ahead, how do you think early stage investing is going to evolve in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think a couple of things. I would say that you know, when we think about the next couple of years, I would say when I started off in this industry, a lot of people were choosing to get venture capital money. A lot of people were a lot of founders were choosing to go into accelerators. But I do think that as we are in the boom of AI, I think investing will actually go, like the activity in investing will go up. The AI boom just started, and there've been an excellent amount of companies that came before that AI boom. But because the AI boom has happened, the AI boom is technically like, I don't know if you remember, but like I remember growing up, we had a house phone, I think, and then you could only talk on the phone or use the internet, but you couldn't do both.
Both, yeah, that's right.
And then the internet happened, and now I can be on Zoom, I can be calling someone, I can do this, I can do that, and that's what AI will do. So how the internet changed that is exactly what AI is going to do now moving forward. And so I think that's going to be, investing is definitely going to take an increase.
Yes. What keeps you optimistic in this space, especially during so much turbulence and uncertain markets?
I would say it's like every once in a while you meet a founder, you leave the meeting, and you can't stop thinking about them. And it's just, I would say founders or creators are very, very special people. They have faith in something that doesn't exist. They have faith in themselves to create that thing and make that thing exist. And if, I think meeting founders once in a while, even when everything's going wrong in the world or like in their country or in their life, but they have inspiration.
Yes.
And they have excitement and they have the passion to keep going. That's all that matters,
As a young lady, if you could give one piece of advice to the youngers, what would you tell them?
I would say that I think it's extremely, extremely important not to limit yourself. And when I say it, I really mean it. And the reason I'm saying it is because a lot of the times, there are a lot of limits placed on us, whether it's your background, your culture, society, things that are going on. I think when you're born into the world,
yes,
a lot of expectations already. Like, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, or you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. And I think it's really important for every single person to just look inside and see what they want to do. And for example, I'll give you an example of this. So when I remember I wanted to work at Y Combinator, everyone thought it was impossible, every single person. And I remember I wanted to be in venture capital. I reached out to 500 investors in the US after I graduated Berkeley. And I asked them, I was like, what do you do in your day-to-day? How do I get into this industry? How can I be, the best here? And a lot of them said, oh, I don't think you fit in the industry, because of this. They're not being mean. They're just being on. They just didn't think, right? And I think if I would have listened to them, I wouldn't have been where I am today. So I think that goes to say, when I decided I wanted to work at YC, I didn't think about it like, oh, I'm trying to go to Mars. It's impossible. It's unrealistic. No one thinks I can do it, so I'm not going to be able to do it. I was like, okay, watch me. And I did, and so I think that was because I didn't place that limit on my head. If I did place that limit on my head, whether I listened to people or if I didn't, have faith or belief that it couldn't happen, it wouldn't happen. And so I think the most single important lesson I live by is the only person that has the power to limit yourself, to limit you is yourself. That's it.
Yes.
No one, absolutely no one else. And I think that's how my career's been built,
And how do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I will definitely be working for myself and I will have my own empire. I don't know if it's going to be a small business, a startup, or, you know, big company. I don't know, but I am very, very excited to continue meeting the most talented founders and creators, and I'm hoping to be one of them. I'm hoping to create something on my own soon.
Do you visit Curacao a lot?
I do. My parents are still there, so
yes.
I visit. I think I visit like twice a year.
Twice a year. Okay.
Yeah. So I was there in January. I'll be back in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great papia ku po Tamanna. Mita espera ku via que botar na Kòrsou nos foto para outro personalmente.
Sí.
Sí. No, great papia ku ita botar me comenta algo diferente, gente hóben, gente de Kòrsou, quanto custa está sendo de exterior. Essa aqui para nos mostrar como positivo nos portar.
Sim. Masha, danke.
Sim. Danke na Tamanna para contribuir para o nosso programa e danke a você na casa para seguir outro programa de ExtraDjasabra de outra semana.